Throughout this video, you might hear some background noise or talking in the background. I apologize for that. I am in a place where I do not exactly have the most privacy, so this was the closest I could get to a clean setup. But I'm back. It's been a while. It's been a good while since I did a video, and I'm going through some major life changes. Today we're going to be talking about the recently released Andy Muschetti film, The Flash. The Flash is a 2023 superhero comedy starring Ezra Miller, and Ezra Miller, with Michael Keaton's Batman also returning to the fray. This film was shrouded in controversy thanks to the actions of Mr. Miller against the citizens of Hawaii, as well as his grooming and subsequent kidnapping of a minor and starting of a cult. However, instead of firing Miller immediately over these actual proven accusations, like they did with Johnny Depp or like Disney did with Gina Carano, even though both were innocent in their respective cases, Warner Bros. Decided instead to double down and keep Miller on board, refusing to reshoot or start from scratch on a film that's been in development hell since 2013. The marketing team then decided to lean heavily on Batman for this marketing. Hey guys, The Flash is coming out! It's gonna have Batman in it. You remember Batman, don't you? Remember how cool he was? You remember that he could never turn his head in his suit for some reason because the cowl was made out of hard rubber? Remember how awesome Michael Keaton was as Batman? We sure do. Come and see Batman in The Flash. This movie's so good it's gonna make you forget all about Ezra Miller's crimes. They really tried to bury Miller during the late stages of advertisement. The movie bombed at the box office, but it had a decent Rotten Tomatoes audience score. What did I think of it? I mean, it's certainly a movie. The story of the film is pretty by the numbers. Barry travels back in time to undo the death of his mother, but as a result, the timeline gets screwed up. Now the Justice League is gone, Superman is dead, and Batman is a lonely old man living in a mansion with no friends and no Alfred. When Earth comes under attack by a familiar foe, it's up to Flash and a small but plucky group of heroes to save the day. The Flashpoint story has been used before on screen, but this presentation of the story is the most bare bones it's ever been. Rather than giving us an alternate version of the Justice League like before, this film completely strips us of the League, leaving the few remaining heroes on Earth in shambles. The CGI in this film, I'm gonna be honest, it's absolutely abysmal. I say that like I could do better. I couldn't. I'm only just now learning how to do animation, but like, this is really, really bad CGI. The director, Andy Muschetti, made the claim that this is a purposeful choice for the film. The idea, of course, is we are in the perspective of the Flash. Everything is distorted in terms of lights and textures. You see, we enter this water world, which is basically being in Barry's point of view. It was part of the design, so if it looks a little weird to you, that was intended. So basically the idea is that Barry's eyes are too slow for his supersonic speed, and don't render out the graphics of reality the way normal people's eyes do. This sounds like some major cope to me, but go off, I guess. I think they couldn't get enough CGI artists on the budget they had, or the CGI artists are tired of being overworked and underpaid, and they left Muschetti in the lurch on this one. If that's the case, I can't say I blame them. The chemistry between Miller and himself is a tad obnoxious. The Flash that we saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League is a more matured, if not still learning superhero, who gladly joins the Justice League under the mentorship of Ben Affleck's Batman. In the Snyder Cut, Flash is fully knowledgeable of his ability to travel back in time if he runs fast enough. This is ultimately what saves the day and helps the team to defeat Steppenwolf. The Flash takes place a few years after Justice League, but it acts as if Barry is just experiencing time travel for the first time. The movie expects us to believe that Barry accidentally discovers time travel several years after he used it to save the world, and that he would brashly make such a decision to heavily alter the past, knowing full well it would mess up the timeline. Of course, this is always a catalyst for the Flashpoint story in any form, but the idea that Barry traveled back in time, saved the world, and then once again forgot about time travel a few years later only to discover it once again is a bit far-fetched. Let's talk about Michael Keaton. It's absolutely amazing to see Tim Burton's Batman again, guys. He's kicking butt and taking names just like he used to. Of course, it's a little harder to buy into it this time because he's significantly older than when we last saw him 30 years ago. Unlike most legacy sequels that treat beloved and revered characters like crap, making them look foolish to build up the newer, younger characters taking their place, The Flash allows Batman to retain his intelligence, charisma, and autonomy without being humiliated in any way. Well, okay, Michael Keaton's Batman isn't humiliated in any way. Ben Affleck's Batman is in this movie, and he is humiliated briefly.
And you are welcome.
My ego's far too big to say thank you to someone else. I developed this all-powerful persona to compensate for my childhood trauma.
I too have childhood trauma.
That thing's crazy.
The lasso of truth never gets old.
I would do a lot better just giving away money. If I really want to end crime, I should end poverty.
Oh, I know sex exists. I've just never experienced it.
The film also marked the debut of newcomer Sasha Calle as Supergirl, aka Kara. In this universe, Kara was sent to Earth to protect baby Kal-El and make sure that no harm comes to him. Ultimately, she fails this mission and dies trying to protect the Earth the way she failed to do for Kal-El. Her character in this film is very engaging, and her story further adds to the theme of the importance of family that this film has established. The only thing I have left to talk about is the cameos. Near the end of the film, Flash causes the timeline to get so out of control that the multiverse begins to collapse in on itself, and we get glimpses of other, older DC characters from throughout the comic company's history, including both of the Reeves Supermen, Adam West's Batman, and Nicolas Cage as Superman. Cage was set to play Superman in a Tim Burton-directed film called Superman Lives, in which the climax of the film would include Cage fighting a giant spider. Ultimately, the film fell through and was shelved, never to be completed. But for some reason, The Flash is teasing us with member berries for a film that doesn't even exist, and this is completely unwarranted. Furthermore, using CGI to resurrect dead actors is a very ghoulish practice in my opinion. These actors in some cases went through horrible experiences playing their characters, particularly George Reeves, whose experience with the character of Superman negatively impacted him in more ways than one. In fact, George Reeves didn't like the role of Superman much, if at all, because it was all that he was known for and it was hard for him to find work elsewhere. It just doesn't seem ethical to use long-dead actors' images without their consent. In fact, that's part of the reason why the actors involved with SAG-AFTRA are going on a strike right now. As I'm writing this review, the writer's strike has just ended, but the actors are pushing on. Actors don't want their likenesses to be used in films without their consent, and AI and deepfaking technology would and already does allow for this to happen in films like The Flash, Star Wars, and Ghostbusters. The AI debate is a heavy one for another video, but as for its role in The Flash, it was certainly eerie and unwelcome. Flash is ultimately an okay film. It's got a good message about the need for family and the need for fathers and mothers. I'd recommend checking out the Let's Get Nuts cut of the film. This was created by a fan editor that streamlines the story and gets rid of the filler and unnecessary elements like the sex jokes and AI cameos. It cuts the film down from 2 hours and 24 minutes to a cool 1 hour and 40 minutes, cutting out nearly an hour of the film and as a result giving the audience a more cohesive and engaging narrative in a shorter amount of time. I'll put a link down to Let's Get Nuts in the comments below if you'd like to check it out, as well as a link to The Flash, which is currently streaming on Max. Would I recommend this film? I can't be sure of this. However, I did enjoy watching it, and so I'll give it a 5 out of 10.